The world has changed. 100 years ago, there was a balance between the mortal realm and the afterlife. But the balance has been destroyed. The kingdoms of heaven and hell are gone. The dead rise from their graves. Some return to their loved ones. Others brought horrors with them. Then there's you. Do you seek to save this world or bring it further into chaos? Brave adventurers, welcome home. Be not afraid.
The Sylvan Woods make up the northernmost part of the main island. Host to the main kingdom, the Estani Empire, the Sylvan Woods are home to many villages and towns. The Estani Empire survived the Eternal War by barricading behind a near impenetrable wall, fortified by celestial magic. Off their coast is a smaller kingdom known only as the Eonics. It is guarded by an unknown magic and cut off from the world. Within the forest, there are many outposts and small villages leading all the way to the region's shared border with the Saxon Desert. The Saxon Desert occupies the southernmost part of the main island. Its shared border with the Sylvan Woods is divided by rolling hills. Its main kingdom, the Oracle Province, hugs the far south of the desert and has been built on the foundation of ancient civilizations. They are often challenged by the Aspero Domain, a young kingdom that took full advantage of the Eternal War to gain power and control trade. The Nixlands were once an ocean, now frozen over for centuries. The Zintasi Empire resides just beyond a frozen wasteland and a snow-covered forest. Rumor has it that they tunneled under the lands in search of a source of power that was buried deep into Ortalis in the wake of the Third Calamity. To their west is the Gullah Union, a kingdom that has dedicated their lives to religious beliefs in hopes to survive what they believe will be the Second Calamity. The Tenebrae is a collection of islands that are vastly unexplored. The one large island was flooded during the Third Calamity, separating into many. Strange crystals sprouted and rose up to the center mass of the islands and disrupted the land. In the wake of its destruction, no life persists on these islands. Explorers have found it near impossible to reach the island, though all who venture toward it are found hollowed. Its once great kingdom, Solcor, has long since been abandoned, save for those who did not have the means to leave. For thousands of years, the Estani Empire has been a crowning jewel amongst the Ortalis Isles. It stands as the pinnacle of progress, through the creation of Karna, the fusion of technology and magic. Karna provided airships, communicators, and other magical devices across the world. The Empire is run by a group of high elves, but the society is welcome to all manner of humanoids. The first district is an enterprise of workers, nobles, business, and commerce. The second district is a large and spread out amongst the sylvan woods. While the forest itself has become a home to many towns and villages, there are many secrets between the leaves. The third district has very few towns and only outposts. Its open plains provide little shelter for dangerous creatures, and the slums of the third district are often riddled by attacks. When the Eternal War began, they erected walls infused with a shield Karna to prevent the chaos from spreading within the first district. Beep. The Oracle Province had started as a branch of the Estani Empire, though over the centuries and change in leadership, they split entirely and founded their own empire. This tropical oasis in the desert is shielded from the desert by the same shield Karna used in the Estani's walls. Unfortunately, the diplomacy of the Oracle Province was lost. Over time, it became led by an oppressive regime, and all districts other than the first have suffered. The second and third district are sparse in comparison to the Sylvan Woods. The unending desert storm prevents large towns from forming, only outposts and small villages behind shielding rock formations. Not much is known of the Zentasi Empire. The Nixlands were once an open ocean until a severe winter crossed Ortalis. Sediment kicked up from the ocean and froze in the waves, making huge mountain ranges in the far north. From these frozen caverns, a landmass formed and was eventually populated. The Zentasi Empire was considered the oldest kingdom in Ortalis. Because of its harsh climate, it only hosts one district. At the start of the Eternal War, the borders of Zentasi closed off to protect their people from potential invaders. There are, however, hidden caverns that connect to a tunneling system that spans across the Nixlands. The Gullah Union. While the Zentasi Empire felt isolation was best for preservation, the Gullah Union believed their religious beliefs and customs should be shared with the world. Defectors of the empire and devout members of the Church of Ericta formed a new kingdom across the Nixlands. They hoped to be closer to the Estani Empire to spread their religious beliefs. For a time it worked, but when the first calamity began, the Church of Ericta was put into question. The Eternal War was brought to their doors, and the Gullah Union became a target for invasion. While it remains the capital for religious study and practice, it is often oppressed by militant forces. Amidst the rough climate of the Saxon Desert stands a new kingdom that rose in power after the first calamity. The Aspero domain started as a group of warriors who lusted for blood. They took pride in their inability to die and banded together to start a kingdom of warriors and take over the Estani Empire and the Oracle Province. Positioned between both, but shrouded by the hills and sandstorm, the kingdom took over a port town and grew into the merciless Aspero domain. Its nobility are known as the Blades, and they often host bouts in their Colosseum. Not much is known about the Aeonics. In fact, no one knows when it even came into existence. Shortly after the invention of Karna, airships were created, and for the first time, the world was visible from a bird's eye view. Explorers found an island far off the coast of the Sylvan Woods. Trying to venture to this island, however, yielded difficulties. A strange barrier of magic, invisible to the naked eye, shielded the island. Ships flew or sailed straight for the island, but would find themselves turned around and headed back to the mainland. It was forgotten about until the Eternal War. Something from the first calamity tore through their barrier, allowing entry for the first time, perhaps ever. Unfortunately for the rest of the world, it also allowed things out. Residents of the Aeonics are mystical in nature, as is necessary for the horrors that exist upon that island. The Corsal Metropolis. The Tenebrae, once a beloved location known for all of its peaceful wildlands and generosity, it was known as a haven to visit, with only one kingdom, the Corsal Metropolis, that shared its amazing food and treasures with the world. Rumor has it, the source of the crystals, abundant across Tenebrae, were harvested and traded to the Estani Empire to engineer Karna. However, after the first calamity, the island began to die. Volcanic fissures in the land slowly covered the haven with soot, crag, and danger. Creatures from other realms made residence upon this desolate land. When the third calamity came to Ortalis, it landed directly over Tenebrae. Islands lifted off the ground by unknown forces, and a mystical firmament formed protecting the islands. The rest of the Corsal Metropolis was left to rot, for anyone who ventured toward the islands was immediately afflicted by the fervor. In the wake of the first calamity, not every deceased returned to life. Unfortunately, some mad scientists, prophets, priests, greedy kings, and curious children found fragments of the meteor shower that contained boundless souls. Experiments were done upon these fragmented souls, and secrets of the soul were discovered. Alchemists discovered 4 parts of a soul essentially cover all subcategories and aspects. Sustaining heavy damage to any given part can also alter their being permanently. Memory, lack of passion. Additionally, these also become moments of blackout. At this point, the frequencies of the blackouts are considered the first steps of becoming hollowed. Mind controls aspects of a person's ideals and prowess. Often like a virus, the ideals diminish while the flaws become more persistent. Many people consider this the moment where they can no longer recognize their loved ones. Soldiers coming back from the Eternal War were left out in the cold to survive on their own. Many could not remember family to return to. Heart, known as empathy, desire, and ambition. It is the last piece warriors could lose during the Eternal War. Those without the heart piece of their soul wander the world aimlessly. Only a single purpose is retained in their heart, and they will aimlessly pursue this with little to no regard for personal safety or the lives of others. Since before the first calamity, soul magic has been a coveted and rare power. Then, very few could tap into it, let alone harness it. Now, however, because of the excessive use of soul magic, and the hollowed results left tens of thousands of warriors, soul magic is essentially outlawed. However, there are still many practitioners across Ortalis. Soul magic targets a specific fragment of a person's soul and draws upon its essence to fuel actions and abilities. This can be done by tapping into one's self with affirmations or personal prayers to liven one's spirit. The end result is near boundless energy and, without matched confrontation, an almost guaranteed success. But tapping into one's soul always comes at a price. The flaws become more persistent. Many people consider this the moment where they can no longer recognize their loved ones. Soldiers coming back from the Eternal War were left out in the cold to survive on their own. Many could not remember family to return to. Heart, known as empathy, desire, and ambition. It is the last piece warriors could lose during the Eternal War. Those without the heart piece of their soul wander the world aimlessly. Only a single purpose is retained in their heart, and they will aimlessly pursue this with little to no regard for personal safety or the lives of others. Since before the first calamity, soul magic has been a coveted and rare power. Then, very few could tap into it, let alone harness it. Now, however, because of the excessive use of soul magic, and the hollowed results left tens of thousands of warriors, soul magic is essentially outlawed. However, there are still many practitioners across Ortalis. Soul magic targets a specific fragment of a person's soul and draws upon its essence to fuel actions and abilities. This can be done by tapping into one's self with affirmations or personal prayers to liven one's spirit. The end result is near boundless energy and, without matched confrontation, an almost guaranteed success. But tapping into one's soul always comes at a price.
My name is Kaida Deanira, and I am 27 years old. And I consider myself to be lawful good. I have a scar on the right side of my face, starting in the middle of my cheek and ending mid-forehead. On my left hand, my ring and my pinky finger were blown off in an explosion that killed me, leaving only my last knuckles. I was born in the 3rd district of the Astani Empire, a little outpost called Kalna. My parents are Rosinia and Marin, my mother and father. I have an older and younger siblings, Alora, my older sister, and Ryo, my little brother. I follow the angel Sarenrae, as my mother and sister did. My young childhood could have almost been considered peaceful. Well, as peaceful as the 3rd district could be. Our little outpost was essentially just a small clearing in the woods, and my mother was the healer of it, training my older sister and I in the ways, though I would say my sister took to it more. And my father, he was the head of the outpost. He led most of the raids against the nearby Orcish tribe that often provoked us. He trained my little brother in the ways of war as well. I mostly just spent my long hours watching the blacksmith's son make swords. When I was 19, my mother and sister left for the 1st district to train my older sister in the ways of healing. Not long after, the Orcish tribe attacked, and my father and my brother were killed in the conflict. They took me and held me prisoner for, I don't even remember for how long, until one of the members of the tribe, Rolf, he and a druid named Mariella, saved me, and we fled to the 1st district where we could never be caught by the tribe. I joined a church there and fell into place, but only healing was never my calling. So I met a woman named Ari, who worked in the warrior sect, and she trained me. But when I was discovered, I was forced to go on an expedition with my mentor Zavari, who had been having visions of something going wrong in the Aeonics. During our travels there, the airship exploded, and in the process of trying to get everybody down from the airship, I was caught, and now I'm dead.
My name is Demas Andreas. I usually go by Demas, but some of my closer friends and loved ones call me D. I'm in my mid-40s, and I've done a lot of things on this mortal plane. I'm lawful neutral. I stick to my moral code, protecting the people that I love. Because of the fireball that I died in, I have some thick burns across my face and upper body. I grew up in an outpost in the Oracle province called Jakoba. Some might know it as the City of Serpents. I was raised by my single mom. I had one friend, and my fate was sealed there. I learned when my mom was on her deathbed that Dad didn't leave when Mom was pregnant, but he was brutally murdered. I don't have any siblings. I was brought up in a completely normal childhood for the outpost. Mom always strived to ensure that I had at least the necessities, even if she couldn't provide us luxury. As for religion, I studied texts that are provided to me by my mentor about the Church of Ifrit, and I definitely believe in heaven and hell and the angels and the demons. But I'd rather use that information that I gain in order to avenge my mom against the realm of hell during my lifetime, as well as to avenge my wife and children once I return. I didn't have a terribly traumatic childhood, if only a bit sad. Dad supposedly left when Mom was pregnant, and so he wasn't around. Mom did everything she could to make sure I was never without. And I knew she cared a lot about me. Unfortunately, my tiefling heritage did lead to some social struggles. I was often ridiculed by the other children of Jakova for my horns and my hellish relation, calling me names to my face and spreading vicious rumors and lies about who I was and what my home life was, especially in regards to Dad leaving. There was one exception, which was a beautiful half-orc girl about my age named Olive. She regularly stand up for me against the other kids, often getting in fights with them on my behalf and consistently spending time with me in a gentle and caring manner. We became really close friends over the course of our childhood. When I was about 15, Mom got ill, and we very quickly realized she was on her deathbed. While I spent my days caring for her, wiping her forehead at her bedside with the damp cloth to hold off the fever, she told me Dad didn't leave of his own accord. Instead, she had done something awful. I'd rather not get into the details of that right now. But she did tell me that that's how she knew she wasn't going to heaven. Even though she had spent the rest of her life trying to reconcile that act. As soon as she told me that, I left the house, seeking anything to save Mom's soul. I was distraught and wandering the desert when I stumbled on an old tome that said I could have whatever my heart desires if only I follow the instructions written within. In all of my exhaustion and despair, I jumped at the opportunity without reading the consequences. In doing so, I did make a pact with the realm of hell. Mom would go to heaven at the time of her passing, and I would have warlock powers, and in exchange, the realm of hell would receive the soul of my eldest child. No negotiations, no exchanges. I accepted the terms, vowing never to have children, thinking somehow I could outsmart the realm of hell. And a delicate, faint pattern appeared on my hand. I ran home to Mom to tell her the good news, but by the time I got there, she was already gone. Unsure of how long she'd been gone, I sought out Olive to help bury her nearby in search of comfort. Finding that comfort that I desperately needed in Olive, I spent the next few years going about my life as normally as possible, and we grew close. I began using that warlock magic to defend Jakova from attacking creatures, though not telling anyone that I was the person providing the protection. After a few years, I was approached by, a person. He was with the Church of Efreet, and he recognized the markings on my hand and introduced himself. His name was Dakotam Longtank, and he would like to provide me with training to help me grow as a warlock, to increase my strength and power. I absolutely leapt at the opportunity to learn how to better wield these powers, finally finding someone that understood what I was going through. Our bargain was that Dakotam would provide me with training and information, and in exchange, I would do errands of sorts for Dakotam. I was looking for work at all times, being like most of the people in the 2nd and 3rd districts. Found that this was a really good opportunity for me to be able to provide the life that Olive deserved. Over the next few years, I worked really closely with Dakotam, building my skills and doing errands of a less than savory nature. Ones that would obviously not be becoming of an acolyte. Early in our work together, Dakotam told me that something had gone terribly wrong when making my pact with the realm of hell, and that Mother was not saved. That Dakotam had deep knowledge of hell and connections that would provide him with that information. I was pretty disappointed. But I knew I still had my warlock powers, so I kept on. In the meantime, Olive and I got married, and on one of our expeditions that we were on for Dakotam in the wildlands, we ran across two really small elven children, like 3 and 5 years old is what we estimated they were at. They couldn't keep count that young. But we also couldn't find their parents. And they couldn't remember where they'd come from. So we took them in. We couldn't let them die in the wilderness like that. Liam and Lucy. We vowed to raise them as our own. A few years later, though, tragedy struck again. I didn't realize that Dakotam had been lying this whole time. And I didn't realize right away whenever Olive and the kids. Nevertheless, in a rage, I made my way to Dakotam's shack to confront him. And I was extremely distraught. I tried to throw a fireball. It was big enough. My emotions were too much. That was the end of me. And here we are today.
My name is NevaeH. I am 18 years old. I am fairly young and don't have much life experience. I lean towards a chaotic neutral. After serving the kingdom and my family for so many years, my main priority is myself and my thirst for adventure. I have 2 very distinct scars on my chest that were delivered to me in my last moments, and a scar over my heart. I was born in the Aspero domain in the House of Shields. My father was the captain of the Kingdom Guard, and my mother was a silk merchant that traveled to Aspero when she was very young. I was raised with my 7 brothers, some young and some older. I was very close with most of my brothers and parents, and we spent a lot of time together. I focused mostly on training and honing my skills as a fighter. But I was taught Catholicism by my mother, and I do revere the value of the soul when things get difficult. I was raised in the midst of a Saxon desert, a bright, young-eyed child fighting an oncoming opponent. I was quick, my bare feet digging into the stones, my skin, hair covered in sand and sweat. A sparring match between my siblings. And today, Zizi Mulhias, the only daughter of Captain Mulhias of the House of Shields, would be the victor. I was born under the hot desert sun, the only girl in a house of 8. I spent my days learning to be a strong and lethal fighter. In the cool of the night, I was taught the ways of the soul by my mother. But when the training was done, in the blazing light of a setting sun, I dreamed of adventure. At the age of 16, I was engaged to a man named Malachi, a very serious and deadly man. I didn't mind the marriage. It was an honor to serve my family. But one night, at a dinner party, my younger brother, Varys, was up to his usual mischievous tricks, and he launched a surprise attack on me, coming out of the curtains with his dagger. There was no time to react. Malachi swung instinctively. The young boy sliding through a pool of his own blood across the floor. The large, stoic Yonti sat back in his chair. He had no concern for the young boy he had just downed with one swing. Rage boiled inside my chest. I held my brother and screamed and cried and launched myself at Malachi, but was held back by my father. I was told that the marriage would continue. I would not accept this. I would never marry that man. I challenged him in the Colosseum. He refused to strike me, but I was relentless. He was becoming fatigued, blocking slash after rage-filled slash, the dust floating around the arena. I positioned my feet and readied another charge. With a fury of flashes, the Colosseum fell silent, and I slumped over. There was blood all over my chest, 2 large gashes streaking down my body. I fell to my knees, and my face hit the dirt. I was defeated. He called me weak and sheathed his weapons and walked away. I had lost. That night I sat in my bedside, lost in my own fury and sadness. I stared out at the starry night, the waves of the ocean crashing against the shore. I drew my blade. I would not marry this man with no compassion. I would not be a servant in his household, never to traverse the world. I pointed my blade at my chest and plunged it deep into my own heart.
Hi. My name's Ren Folklore. 300 years old. Chaotic. So no one really cares about that information. I have 3 giant claw marks in my back and teeth marks around my wrist from when I was inevitably murked by a giant beast creature. Don't really want to talk about that. I was born in Greenvale in the wilds of Eonyx, but I have no recollection of my birth parents. I was adopted at a young age by my father's Kalpos and Graros Folklore. I had an adopted sister, though for some reason I can't remember what her name is. No religious ties at all. I was a very peculiar individual. Spent the first 18 years of my life alone, or so I thought. In the wilds of Eonyx, it's a very kill or be killed living, since most of the creatures are both mystical and malicious. I had no idea who my parents were or why I was left in the wilds to fend for myself, so I didn't have many interactions with other people, anyone or anything in general that wasn't trying to kill me. That was, of course, until I was found by a couple exploring, looking for ingredients. Me being very cautious and defensive, I tried to murder them both. Kalpos and Groros both could see that I was alone and immediately took it upon themselves to take me in. For a while, things were pretty difficult because I didn't really open up to the 2 of them. I mean, could you blame me? I don't really know them, and I've spent the first 18 years of my life not really dealing with anyone. Anyway, I started to let my walls down once I realized that they meant no harm and began to ease into the life that they provided for me, if you will. They were experts in espionage, teaching me all the ways of silence and stealth. They'd go throughout Greenvale, our village, and we would yield justice to the unruly sorts from the shadows, returning peace to the innocent and less fortunate. They were heroes in my eyes, which made me want to emulate that. But I wasn't really too fond on the idea of interacting with other people besides my dad's. All that changed when my little sister came into the picture. Tifala. Now I remember. I think. We found her out in the wilds while we were out on a hunting expedition. She was clinging to her dead parents' bodies that were just murdered by a wild beast. Something inside me turned on, and I just knew I had to protect her and vowed to do whatever it took to take care of her and my family, my chosen family. Growing up, things seemed normal. We'd disguise ourselves and deal swift justice to wrongdoers, give back to the people in need. As I got older, I became more closed off to everybody besides my family, because everybody else sucks besides my family. Except for a certain someone. Sorry, reminiscing. A certain someone by the name of Pover Bastrop. I don't know what it was about him, but it just felt like we were meant to be. I never really spoke to anyone in the village besides my sister and my dad, but, and as regretfully as I say this out loud, my demeanor would definitely change whenever he would glide by, delivering messages throughout the village. I thought there was some connection there. We had a mutual interest, and when I went to go and tell him, I found out that he was engaged. I couldn't do anything about it, so I kind of left it alone, but I really wanted to tell him how I felt. One day I was going home from dealing with some petty pickpockets, and I heard a scream that I recognized as my sister. Without hesitation, I ran towards where she was screaming and immediately dealt with the man who was attacking my sister without any type of hesitation. It wasn't until the rage completely stopped and I made sure that she was okay that I realized it was Pover's fiance. Big mistake on my end. I took the body and my sister, we went into the wilds and we went to go dispose of it. I made her swear that she wouldn't tell anybody of this, that I would eventually tell Pover myself. She could see how much I was really into him, and she always made fun of me for it, but she knew how much it's meant to me, so she promised she wouldn't say anything. And eventually I would tell him, or so I thought. I just couldn't get past seeing him moping around, being so distraught about his love being taken away from him, and the guilt washing over me knowing that I was the reason why he was gone. I just couldn't bring myself to tell him. I continued doing my feats of espionage, covert takedowns, even went off on my own for a while, using my skills outside to become an apex hunter. While out one day looking for some food for the family, I found myself in the woods and stumbled upon the area where I disposed of Pover's fiance's body. The downward spiral kind of hit. I went through waves of guilt and rage and sorrow, and just couldn't really deal with it. I tried to rationalize it myself and saying that it was for my sister's sake. I told myself that I was terrible for even doing that. I had no right to kill that man. My emotions got the better of me. I was completely losing it. And that was my ultimate downfall. See, in the wilds of Onyx, you have to always stay on alert, because even if you feel like you have the whole scope of what's going on, there's always something watching you. And sure enough, there was definitely something watching me the entire time. I was going through such an emotional turmoil that I strayed off the path, just trying to run from all the guilt and pain that I felt, that I almost nearly walked into the mouth of a giant beast that was there. It was camouflaged so well, I'm surprised I didn't see it, and had I not reacted when I did, probably would have died. I started to get my senses back, but they were still kind of dulled and frayed from me just being in emotional disarray. I tried to regain my composure. The beast lunged forward at me, and as I tried to escape from it, it clawed into my back. And as I'm laying there, bleeding out, all I can see is visions of my dad's laughing. My sister wanted me to pick her up, like I always did. Visions of Pover smiling at me, followed by the jaws of the beast closing over me. From what I know, the only thing that they found of my body was my hand that was left over. So that's my story. Or at least, that was my story. Because I'm back now, I think. Still a little confusing to me. But with this second out at life that I get, I'm not gonna waste it.
Hi, I'm Amaris Tureen. My friends call me Mari. I'm 249 years old, but as an elf, that makes me like 25 in human years. I'm very chaotic neutral. I was raised in District 3 of the Sylvan Woods. Unfortunately, the only thing I remember about my mother is her voice. I don't really know how I ended up at the Druid Sanctuary of Alarcon at approximately the age 8. And they never really disclosed any information. I have no known siblings or family members, and I'm currently a follower of the Church of Erica. I always forget how to pronounce it. Specifically the Demeter sect. I had one friend growing up. He was a bird of a bastard. We have the same passion for shiny things, and that's kind of what we bonded on. Other than that, it was pretty much just mentoring at the Druid Academy as I started excelling, and I did have a mentor that kind of ended up being like a mother figure. Occasionally, I would go out and take some contracts and things for some extra cash or boredom, and my best friend would follow me because, well, as long as they got a cut of the loot, they didn't care. I really, there's a couple of important things that happened throughout my life. The arrival at the Druid Academy and kind of diving into those studies. And I was really excited when they offered me the fill-in mentorship. But all in all, I don't really think that interesting of a life. I'm just a normal druid that likes to shapeshift. And I really like animals, and I don't like hurting them unless I absolutely have to. And my best friend's probably the closest thing to family that I actually know. He works under the apothecary at Larcon. We drink a lot. We fight over who's going to drink. Pay for the drinks. I really don't know what to say. We went out drinking, and we were partying with a few people at the sanctuary. I remember tackling them because I saw a shadow in the woods, and I walked to the woods, and that's it. I don't remember how I died, or even if I died. It's all kind of a blur.
Honesty.
Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is this thing on? Well, half of it is. Let's see if it's actually going to show my face this time. There I am, in the dark. as all good DMs should be. Hi, everyone. It's me, Mystery Eddie Rose. So many different names that I go by, but here it is Roll for Trauma. I want to thank you guys all for watching the pre-screening as we prepare for this brand new campaign. For those of you who have been here before, we did the original NevaeH about a year ago, about a year and a half ago. The Final Frontier, which is also on YouTube in a playlist. It's about 15 episodes long, 3 hours each. So make sure you've got some time before you binge it. But we're back in this amazing world of heaven and hell, and a lot of things have changed. The afterlife is no longer after. People that were dead have come back to life. People that die don't stay dead and slowly chip away parts of their souls. It's a brand new story with new characters and new faces in an ever expanding world. This time around, we've got different aspects of magic that you've never seen before. We've got a brand new cast of players and their characters, some new faces, some returning faces. And it's going to be quite a joy to lead them on this brave new adventure. I don't know if I should say that. I'm not going to say that. I'll save that. We've got time. Stream is going to be 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Tuesday, you can catch us live where we'll actually be performing the campaign. And on Thursdays, you'll be able to catch the afters, which we normally don't show or stream or at all to anyone. But basically, when we talk about all the stuff that happened, as well as some additional interviews, taking some of your favorite clips and asking the players what their thoughts and ideas were during those moments. So be sure to clip your favorite scenes, catch the entire show, watch it on YouTube if you've missed it on Twitch here, and we'll go from there. We're working on making a Discord that'll be specifically for Roll for Trauma, not for NevaeH. So as we do more D&D campaigns and bring you more content in that realm, it'll be here. Looking into merchandising for potential Patreon stuff, but that'll be down the line. We'll see how it goes over the next few months. Exactly, just like behind the scenes. And it's going to be a blast. Everyone's hyped for it. We've got 23 hours till launch. I don't know if I'm going to sleep. It's going to be crazy. This is probably, I've done a lot of homebrew campaigns. I know that everything you've watched right now it says Jack all of me. But hi, I'm Eddie. I've been a D&D player since 2006 and been a dungeon master since 2011. I don't personally consider myself a dungeon master for D&D because I do not build or DM already created content. I'm a homebrew master, so to speak. I.e., every campaign I've ever run, I've made on my own. But to that extent, I've made campaigns with lore that already exists and stuff like Naruto, as well as my own in-game mechanics, special races, classes, abilities, and worlds from start to finish, all the way from scratch. I usually host all of the different NPCs that you'll see, and this time we've actually got a voice mod that'll let me be those characters a little bit more. Change it up so you're not just hearing my voice with a really bad accent of some sort, but you'll actually hear a slightly modified voice during those moments of interaction for the players. Additionally, we've got guest star NPCs that'll be coming on. They're slotted in to play specific roles on certain days just to keep it a little bit more lively so the players don't get too used to the nonsense that I'm bringing up. And yeah, I think that's enough about me. I don't really know what else to add. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask while I'm rambling here. I'm mainly rambling because I haven't decided if I'm going to restart all the videos and have it play through again, or if I'm just going to end the stream. Yeah, we've been working on the Final Frontier. See, I've been working on it personally in my head since the last one ended. We had a lot of fun with the campaign. And I knew that it was a world that I didn't want to let go of. It had a lot of potential for really rich and interesting ideas by flipping around this concept of death and how it's played out not only in D&D but in lore as we know it across all sorts of different things. Being able to bring that vision to life again has always been a dream of mine. In a lot of ways, the players inspired me to make this second campaign, even though they're not all returning. This time around, I want to say, don't quote me on this, end of April. End of April, plans for NevaeH Part 2, The Final Frontier. No, Paradise Lost, right. Final Frontier is the first one. Paradise Lost came into being. Hard to say, but the idea of what the players would have to go through as heaven and hell were suddenly closed. We were no longer dealing with the afterlife and memories, but we were now dealing with how what the players had done in their past affected the present day, all the while dealing with this bigger threat of they've been brought back to life. They've been gone for 25 years and they don't know how the universe has changed, what calamities have been brought down to Ortalis and affected the lands, their friends, their families, who's still fully alive and who's missing parts of their souls, all the while trying to undo this curse of alive in life, because death is gone and the natural order of things is disrupted. Every player has had their game zero. For game zero, I like to do a one-on-one with the player and let them kind of get a feel for how I am as a DM. Helps me get understanding for how they are as a character and as a player. If I need to guide them a little bit more, or if I can kind of let them go off the rails, if they're going to be a rules lawyer, or if they're going to get stuck in the lore, if I give them a book or something like that, gives me that heads up ahead of time, so I know how best to write out specific moments and instances as I navigate them around the story. I try my best to make sure the world is played like an open world game, but with a timeline. In that sense, the players can go where they want, and those areas become populated with NPCs, merchants, enemies, friends, allies, foes, etc. But at the same time, whatever the major threat is not going to stop. So if they decide, oh, we want to go farm for a week, they can go farm for a week. But the bad guys are going to continue their motivations. And if they, decide to take interest in that, when they decide to or how they decide to affects everything that happens next. The best example I can give actually comes from Community. I want to say season 4 or 5, don't quote me on that. But they did Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, a little spoof of the game during that TV show. And at the very end, the Dungeon Master in the show, he said, "It is not my responsibility to let you fight the big bad guy. That's up to you as players. If you decide to argue outside of his door and he can hear you, he's going to leave. Because it's the big bad guy. Why would he?" So I try to bring that same logic to how every interaction goes. And it makes for a very exciting campaign because not everyone that's there to help you wants to help you. And sometimes you have to pull that information out of them. Not everyone there that wants to hurt you or is there to hurt you cares about the fight. And there's a bit of lore and a bit of storytelling mixed into every single character that the players will meet. So I'm very fortunate and thankful that I get to be the voice of them and bring them alive, even if it's a 5-minute NPC or a 5-episode NPC. The guest star NPCs that we have coming on are playing some very important characters, some friendly, some not so friendly. They have been given basically a small blurb of specific lore that they can freely share or can't share at all, or it has to be kind of retrieved or pulled from them in some fashion. They have their motivations that help guide the story. So in its own way, they're kind of like an extension for me to be able to give them information and allow them to play these specific integral characters in their own fashion instead of just the way that I would bring it. And it kind of mixes up what the players can expect at that point, because they may be used to my style as a DM and my style as an NPC player. And then all of a sudden someone comes in that doesn't want to talk to them. and just wants to fight, and they're like, how do I deal with this? How do we get this person to talk? What secrets is this person holding? So each NPC carries a lot of weight in that fashion, and it's going to be a lot of fun seeing how the players interact with everything that this world has to offer, and vice versa with the NPCs and how they decide to affect the world as they continue on their personal agendas. It's going to be a very integral campaign. We're looking at 15 episodes long. We will be skipping 4th of July, but there will be content still played that Tuesday. Somehow I'm working out exactly how to make that happen. But once again, Tuesdays are live stream days. Thursdays is our behind the scenes day, / interviews, and those are going to be the days, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here. Please share it amongst your friends. We really want this project to grow and take off. And I think that's about it. So we are over an hour. I wanted to keep this one short. I'm going to go ahead and end it if you guys don't have any questions for me. In the meantime, welcome to Roll for Trauma. This is the brand new D&D Twitch live stream simulcast to YouTube. So check us out on there, youtube.com/rollfortrauma. TikTok and all that other stuff will be coming up shortly. TikTok and Discord specifically. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.